I was really proud of the way our guys competed in Philadelphia. I think that when I look at the tournament overall, we had 18 entries, and 13 of those entries placed in their weight class, and we had multiple weight classes that we had two, or one, even heavyweight we had three placers. So I think that kind of spoke to the depth that we're starting to kind of develop at our team. And we had some guys that really just competed hard. We had some guys that really, wrestled some tough matches, had some really quality wins, and then we had some guys that broke out as well. Like Will Miller, winning his first tournament of his college career. So, I took a lot of positives from this weekend, and we've been trying to battle and kind of get that identity that we talk about in our program, and wrestle a certain way, and I thought that we looked closer to that in Philadelphia than we did at our tournament the previous week. We're still trying to get a couple guys healed up before Vegas, and so I'm excited. I think there was a lot of positive takeaways from Keystone, and it was actually a tough field. I think it was probably one of the toughest fields we've wrestled in a long time. Adding Virginia Tech and Arizona State to an already decent tournament, really kind of provided some extra competition and some opportunities for some ranked opponents to wrestle.
To have two champions, one of them John, who reaches 100 career wins and passes that. Just what have you seen out of him early this season to be returning All-American? But it seems like he's had a pretty good focus and performance so far.
Yeah, I would say that I think John's still getting better. And I think that's the beauty of him being so young in the sport. A lot of the wrestlers that he's competing against have been wrestling since they were 4 and 5 years old, and John didn't start wrestling until he was like 13 or 14 years old. So he's still getting better. And that's what I've seen. I mean, just the poise he's showing, and the just the fundamentals. I mean, he's just wrestling so complete in all positions, and honestly, he probably had the toughest weight class the last two tournaments. At the Mountaineer Invitational that we hosted, I think his weight class was probably the deepest of all the weight classes. And then at Keystone, there was 4 wrestlers ranked inside the top 15 in the country, and he really dominated, that weight class. I think he had a major decision over the 11th ranked wrestler in the country, and then, a pretty convincing win, in the finals, over another really, really quality opponent from Penn. So I think he's getting better. I think it's exciting. I think he's excited for the opportunity. He really, his goal is to be a national champion this year, and I really believe he's on a really good path and a great trajectory to put himself in position to do that.
What are the keys for him not to look ahead toward March and to kind of be in the moment with, so much of the season ahead and what to accomplish before you get to there?
Well, I mean, we talk about it in our program each and every week. The next important, the most important match is the next one. And we try to keep our guys, with that kind of focus, because, when you don't focus on just what's right in front of you, like a lot of times you have inconsistent performances. And, we've preached to our guys over and over again how important it is to be consistent throughout the year to set us up in a position to perform well in March. And honestly, our schedule's so tough that he's going to have tests every weekend. Like we just got back from Keystone. He had a great test, and then the toughest tournament of the year is in Vegas next weekend, and so he's going to see some of the best guys in the country at his weight, and he's going to have a lot of tests. So he's got plenty to focus on to kind of keep him in the moment. And he's pretty good about that. John's this is his 6th year. He's mature. I think he knows what he wants to accomplish, and I think he knows the importance of doing things a certain way.
You mentioned Will Miller. He wins at 174. Can you kind of share a little bit of recruiting him? I know last year was his first year in the program, and some of the development growth you've seen since he got here.
Yeah, so recruiting Will Miller was a little bit different because we recruited him through COVID. So a lot of it, obviously we had watched him wrestle at a tournament pre-COVID. I think that he first got on our recruiting radar at a tournament called the Knockout Tournament. It was a Christmas tournament in Florida, in Orlando, Florida. And, we kind of followed up with him, did the whole recruiting process through Zoom, met him, met his family, kind of followed his results. He had a really good senior year. I think he was in the high school national finals for seniors, and he was actually like a 145 pounder, I think, his senior year, maybe 152 at high school nationals. But really liked him and the family, and was able to get him here at Appalachian. Last year, I knew he had a lot of talent. There was times when I could really see that he's got a really bright future. It was a little bit of an adjustment period for him, just being away from home and learning how to manage his classes and his schedule and just time management. So he had some ups and downs last year, but he really turned the corner last summer when he was here training. He went to the U23 Nationals and made it to the round of 12. And, at that point, I really started seeing that he was going to be a really, really important part of our lineup. And he was actually a 165 pounder. I kind of spoke to him about, hey, man, why don't you try to put on some weight and, fill in at 174, since we had Formato at 165. He embraced that. I think he's filled out the weight class really nicely. And, he really, I think, showed that he's going to be a real contender here at the end of the season.
You mentioned building some of the depth of the three heavyweights that play. So I think 157 had two top four performances. How do you see that having an impact when that competition's in the room and the kind of effect that has moving forward?
Oh, it's really important. I mentioned those weight classes, but what I didn't mention is we had two of our starters that didn't make the trip to Philadelphia. Caleb Smith and Sean Carter were both out for illnesses. And we still had entries at those weights that placed. At 125, Chad Bellis makes the semifinals at Keystone, unseeded, and then Ethan Oakley the same way ends up placing in the tournament. So that's kind of the depth that our program is really looking to get to. So if we have an injury or a guy's out for a week, we just we can put another guy in there and they're going to be equally as competitive. We don't want to have any weight classes where there's just a steep drop off from our starter to maybe the backup, and we're not quite there yet. But I do think with the increases of scholarship that we got most recently this year and moving forward in the recruiting process, I'm hopeful that we're going to have that depth in about every weight class.
Maybe last one, you mentioned the Las Vegas event. How did that come together for your group this time and beyond even maybe 149, just a little bit of a look as you enter that in early December?
Yeah, the Las Vegas tournament, quite honestly, is probably the toughest tournament in college wrestling now outside of the NCAA championships. And, I've actually looked at it, the last 3 years about possibly taking our guys out there, but it always seemed to fall during our exams or the weekend right before our exams. And so there really wasn't a great time to go to that tournament. And this year, when I was looking at the schedule, having a veteran group, having a lot of returning national qualifiers, guys that are aspiring to be national champions, All-Americans, I wanted to give them the opportunity to see the best guys in the country before we get to the NCAA tournament. And so when I looked at the schedule and the Las Vegas invite fell the week before our reading day, I was like, what, this might be a great opportunity. And I've got some guys that I think really need this tournament. And so I reached out to the tournament committee and told them we'd like to come, and they accepted us. And so it looks like right now we're going to take 7 guys out there next week. We've got some other guys that we're probably going to send to another tournament up in at George Mason. We'll probably send 4 guys to George Mason, 7 guys to Las Vegas. So just kind of looking at what's best for each of those individuals. And so it's going to be a great opportunity. Those 7 guys we're taking to Las Vegas are going to have really great opportunities to, knock off some of the best guys in the country and also just kind of feel what the level's going to be like that they need to be, elevate themselves to in March for the NCAA tournament if we're going to reach our goals.